So hi and welcome. My name is Janne Jensen and I'm the International Sales Manager of Medclear. This video I'm going to try to illustrate how to dose nitrous oxide mix to a patient in a closed system so you will be safe as staff. I will also try to demonstrate how you can lead the expired gas away from not only you but also from the room, and you can even in this system lead it down to a basement in this hospital where they have a central destruction system in place, meaning that it also not only protects you as staff, it also protects our external environment. But let's start out with finding the right equipment for dosing the gas mix of oxygen and nitrous oxide to the patient. So I will use a demand valve, and a demand valve is designed to only dose gas on inspiration. That's the name of the demand valve. So what I have here is a demand valve. On that, I need to place an exhalation valve because this is an item that you're going to use over and over again. It's going to go to the next patient. You need to protect this from contamination, of course. So what I will add to this is an exhalation valve that will protect the demand valve from contamination. On this special exhalation valve, I have the AGSS connection, meaning that I now have the possibility not only to dose the gas on inspiration, they will also do the expiration back to this valve. And because it has an AGSS connection, I can put a hose to the system and lead that away to something. So let's take it step by step. I think this patient is going to like to be dosed with a mouthpiece. So I will use a mouthpiece to dosing the gas mixture. Here's the mouthpiece. And what I have now is I have the possibility, as I said, to dose the gas on inspiration to the patient. They will push back expiration into the same system. I need to make sure that in a closed system that I catch this with something and then lead it away. I need to have a connection to that because the diameter on the hose that I'm going to use is smaller, will not fit here. So I add on this connection, meaning that I go from a bigger volume to a smaller volume on the connections. And here's going to be my expiration hose, which I then place on to this one. So now I have the possibility of dosing the gas on a demand valve from a mouthpiece. They will inspire through the mouthpiece. They will also expire into the mouthpiece, and that will then go into this hose. In this hospital, they have an AGSS port. So this is the AGSS port. And what that means is that I need now to have all the expired gas going into that connection here. And what you see is that they don't fit. So I need to have a system in between where they fit. The system here that they have in this hospital is an active AGSS system, meaning that as soon as I plug something into this system, it immediately generates vacuum. So what I will do here is that I have here a buffer that I will need, and the buffer is to make sure that I do not do something wrong to the patient. So in between these connections, both the AGSS and my demand valve, I need to have a buffer. And this is what it's called, it's a buffer. What you see here from this buffer is that it has holes on both sides, and they need to be there because they will protect the patient. If something happens on the AGSS side and you say all of a sudden you have a very high vacuum, you don't need that high vacuum to influence the patient. They don't need that high vacuum to generate any possible damage to their lungs. That's why you have the holes on the side, meaning that if that all of a sudden turns up very high, you will simply just place that high vacuum on the holes here on the side. So that's the buffer from a high negative pressure generated from a vacuum pump that possibly goes up very high. What it also protects is from a high positive pressure. What if the patients all of a sudden blow out extremely heavy? That will not interfere with anything because, as I said before, you have the holes, and if they blow out really heavily into this, it will simply just overspill on the side. So, as I said, here's the hose that I plug into my AGSS connection. And what you immediately will hear is that there's a vacuum going on, meaning that the pump down in the basement has started to turn on, and it sucks in, whatever that I place into this, it will start to suck in that and put it down into the basement where they have a central destruction system in place. So what I now need is to make sure that all the expired gas from the patient, which will contain nitrous oxide, of course, I need to place that into my system here then will suck it up and lead it down to the AGS pump, which will then put it over to the central destruction system. So I place that here, and what you have now here is a complete system, right? So the patient will inhale through the mouthpiece. They will push back on the same mouthpiece with their expiration. That will go into my pink tube, my pink hose, go over to my buffer. My buffer has holes on the side to protect the patient from a high negative pressure, might come from a vacuum pump, AGS pump that goes off and goes off with too high volume. It will also protect the patient and the system from a high positive pressure that could come from a patient blowing out really heavily. So all my expired gas will then go over to my buffer. My buffer will collect all the expired gas from the patient. That will contain a lot of N2O. The N2O will be sucked up by this system, the AGS, and the AGS system will then take that down to the basement. In the basement there is an AGS pump, an active AGS pump that will suck up all the gas that I have in this container, this buffer, and lead it over to a central destruction system. Thank you for listening in. This was Jannik Jensen from Medclair. Thank you.